Grand Rising Heathens on this good June 1st.
We caught Tina's cancer early, before it spread. If she hadn't listened, my story would be so different.
Virtua Health, here for women, here for good. Learn more at virtua.org/here-for-good.
Attention. If you owe money to the IRS, this is an urgent message.
Y'all know what they got going on up Philly, right?
Collection letters, garnishing paychecks, seizing bank accounts.
It's MOOK Day Parade Day up there, y'all. I told y'all them Dixiecrats. Philadelphia is part of the Go Along, Get Along gang, y'all. I told y'all that. So what's going on today on this good June 1st? They promoting LGBT MOOK Parade. And a lot of people going to attend that foolishness on a Sunday. That's the crazy part, right? When a lot of them supposed to be in church, they going to be up Philly going against the Most High word. And we all know that. Going against the Most High word for their pleasure. And we know this, y'all. That's why I told y'all Philadelphia part of the MOOK organization. They act like they care for y'all. They don't give a damn about y'all. If they spent more time as they do putting those MOOK parades together, goddammit, they should be able to do the same energy, use that same energy to prevent violence that's going on in Philadelphia. You understand me? That's a fact. 100% fact, not fiction. Yeah, like I said, ladies and gentlemen, that's some bullshit, y'all. Philadelphia, part of that LGBT MOOK shit they got going on. Grand Rising, great Grand Rising. Look at that, y'all. Look at that. Look at that, y'all. Great Grand Rising, goddammit. Great Grand Rising. On this good Sunday. But you know, we get the word on Sabbath day. We get the word on Sabbath day, you heard? But like I said, y'all, it's Sunday. It's gonna be a lot of MOOKs in Philadelphia. You know what I mean? I said they couldn't wait to put that shit on the news. They was quick to talk about that shit. Oh, today is the LGBT MOOK parade. I'm like, listen to these motherfuckers, man. Covering that foolishness. I give a damn about them MOOKs. That's all they are, MOOKs. And I don't support them MOOKs. You understand me? When it comes to the word of the Most High, goddammit, I'm standing on the Most High shoulders. And yes, we got no love for the motherfucking MOOKs. Going against the Most High word. Don't nobody support that foolishness. Think I'm gonna support you over the Most High? Are you crazy? What the hell is wrong with y'all? Look at that. Great Grand Rising, beloved. Great Grand Rising. On this good first. Yeah, yesterday they had that water main break. Yeah, by the McCann. And I was telling y'all about the mechanic that was trying to get over for $750 because he said I needed the compressor for him to do the compressor, I believe, and put the goddamn Freon back in. He tried to get me for $750, y'all. That I was boo-boo the fool before I was interrupted by the water main break yesterday. But like I said, y'all, I had one online and shit. Got the motherfucking compressor, went on my Amazon account. Went on my Amazon account. I got the motherfucking air compressor for $106, y'all. $106. 2 cans of Freon. I'm gonna estimate that to about $50, right? So we had about what, $50? We had about $156, ladies and gentlemen. We had $160, right? $156. That's what we at with it, right? And my mechanic, he gonna put it on for $100, ladies and gentlemen. That's $260, y'all. That's $256. That's $256, ladies and gentlemen, all together. But if that was a female that brought a used car and it needed a compressor, these mechanics are out here to get y'all. So I suggest a lot of you ladies and females that's out there, do your research. Google the parts and find a reliable mechanic you can rely on. If you don't got no reliable mechanic, I can suggest a mechanic to you, a couple mechanics that's reliable and won't spank you and won't have you going to the bank. You understand me? But like I said, y'all, everybody is out to get people, y'all. Everybody in the village, they got a business, they're gonna try to spank you. First thing they're gonna say is, oh, tariffs. Hell with that. It's American products that's in America that y'all can get. Everything made in America, putting America first, know what I mean? So I'd rather support America, knowing the equipment that I will receive will be some nice equipment, ladies and gentlemen. Will be some nice equipment. For sure. Built in America, America first. On this good Sunday. Come back and get some gas. How much is gas doing? $2.95. Cool. My man's down here. Let me go grab one of my scratch offs. My daily scratch off. $2.97 here. And I know the Shell probably went like $3.05 or something like that a gallon. But they was coming down at one point. It's like it's up and down with the gas prices. I'm not complaining at all. Gotta go with the flow, ladies and gentlemen. Gotta go with the flow. A lot of motherfuckers complaining and all that old bullshit. Nobody got time for that shit. If you're gonna make it happen, make it happen. Now, I mean, otherwise, shut the fuck up. But like I said, the mechanics, y'all, like I said, $250 all together, no more than $256 and some change. But it's all good. Goes to show you, one person don't stop the show, y'all. When the Most High created human life to do different things, He didn't just create one person to do one thing. Y'all see that live and direct? We had it on footage. We had the footage if it would have went down. Early in the morning, the rush to go nowhere. In the rush to go nowhere. Hold on, man. We back, heathens.
Need a crowd when
I'm gonna
your
get my
presence
kids' ass.
breaks bones. You don't need applause when your silence makes liars
Yeah.
choke. They wanted war, but they brought butter knives to a mind sharpened like steel. You didn't play their game.
We brought a butter
You
knife.
flipped the table, lit it on fire, and forced them to eat their words in the ashes. Let's make something clear. This isn't revenge. This is resurrection.
Wow.
You died in their ignorance, burned in their denial, and rose with a grin so wide it split their comfort in half.
Wow.
You bodied them, not for vengeance, but because you were done playing dumb. You were done shrinking to fit in their box.
Right.
Now, you're the box cutter. This ain't motivation, this is revelation. This is for every night you screamed inside and smiled outside. For every time they laughed at your silence, only to realize that silence was you loading the gun. So now they panic, they shake, because you didn't come back stronger.
They went 319 at the Eagle. That gas don't never go down, man.
It's allergic to comfort.
For
They
real.
said you lost it, that your wires got crossed, that something snapped in you.
Oh, yeah.
But what really happened? You opened your eyes. You saw the strings, the puppets,
Right.
the masks glued on faces that forgot their own.
Right.
You didn't go mad, you went aware. And in a world built on lies, awareness is the first cry. They don't hate your change, they hate your freedom. Because the second you unplug, you expose the program. You stop saying yes to things that made your soul rot. You stop playing the fool. You stop swallowing the script they feed you. Smiling, nodding, breaking inside, and once you break the loop, you become the glitch, the virus, the threat. That's why they mock you. That's why they whisper behind curtains stitched in fear. Because nothing terrifies a programmed mind more than a free one. You didn't lose your mind. You reclaimed it. You took it back from trends, from trauma, from every voice that tried to write your story in crayon and chain it to approval. Isolation? It wasn't punishment. It was purification. The silence you sat in? That was your ceremony. Where the noise died. Where the fake fell off. Where clarity became your crown. And now they look at you like you've lost touch. When really, you just refuse to touch anything unclean again. So let them call you insane. Let them laugh, point, distort. Because the ones who unplug, they don't return to the matrix. They own it. Eyes open, heart armored, mind forged in solitude. That's not madness. That's rebirth. They poked, pushed, provoked, prayed for a meltdown. They needed your fire so they could play victim to the flames, but you didn't burn. You cut. Not out of anger, but with precision. While they lost their minds, you mapped their weaknesses. While they shouted, you listened, calculated, stored every inconsistency like ammo waiting for its moment. They wanted a show. You gave them an autopsy. No feelings, no flinching, just raw truth on a table sliced and labeled. You saw through their outbursts, their fake outrage, their trembling egos dressed in volume. And when you spoke, it wasn't loud, it was lethal. Because a mind that isn't ruled by emotion, that's a scalpel, and you carved them clean. You ever notice? The moment you stop reacting, they start spiraling. Your stillness? It's not weakness. It's a mirror. And they can't stand the reflection. Because when you stop feeding their drama, they run out of script. And when you speak facts without flinching, their whole play collapses. They called you cold, said you don't feel. But what they don't get is you did feel. Deeply. Until feeling became a cage, so you stepped out. And now your edge isn't cruelty, it's control. You're not heartless. You're healed. And nothing terrifies the manipulator more than someone they can't shake. You don't argue anymore. You analyze. You don't fight dirty. You fight surgically. No wasted words, no flared emotion. Just one clean cut of truth that makes the whole illusion bleed. That's not cold. That's power. You weren't fighting. You were reflecting. And what they saw scared the hell out of them. You didn't insult them. You exposed them. Held up that invisible mirror they've spent years avoiding. And when they looked into it, they saw the parts they buried. The lies they dressed in pride. The masks they forgot they were wearing. That's why they snapped. Why they barked and deflected and turned the blame around. Because your truth wasn't just heard. It hit, not like a punch. Like a spotlight. And shame hates light. So instead of facing it, they projected. Called you toxic, dramatic, difficult. When in reality, you were just the first person to stop playing along with their script. They weren't mad at you. They were mad at what they saw in themselves when you refused to flinch. Because when you echo someone's truth back to them without sugarcoating it, it burns, it bruises, it breaks their illusion. And suddenly, you become the enemy, simply for refusing to lie. Here's the twist. You never had to raise your voice. You just had to repeat what they said, word for word, and watch as they implode on their own logic. That's not confrontation, that's exposure. That's the real danger. You don't need to invent a lie to beat them. You just hand them their truth and walk away. Let them call it cold. Let them call it harsh. What they call heartless is just clarity they weren't ready to face. Because when the mirror cracks, it's not the glass that's broken.
Communicamp is an intensive group treatment and an intense.
It's the image they built inside it. They laughed while you were in the shadows, face down, fists clenched, soul cracked. They saw you disappear and thought you folded, thought silence meant surrender. But what they didn't know is you were building in that darkness, training in the pain, grinding while they posted, bleeding where they scrolled, and now they choke on your glow. You didn't just win, you earned every scar, every tear, Every sleepless night was a down payment on the life they swore you'd never touch. And that's why it hurts them. Because deep down, they know they took the easy route. Talked big, did little. You were buried in the work they feared. And now you've become the proof that their excuses were nothing but air. Don't ever let them twist it. This wasn't luck. This wasn't right place, right time. This was discipline, forged in chaos. Results built brick by brick while they chased validation. You didn't need applause. You needed silence. You didn't need eyes on you. You needed eyes locked on the mission, and now that it's complete, they flinch. Because your success screams where you never had to. The real flex? You didn't even stunt on them. You just existed. And that alone exposed the gap between dreams and discipline. Your presence is now their punishment. Not because you tried to hurt them, but because you refused to be like them. And in that choice, you became untouchable. Let them stare. Let them squirm. Let them label you obsessed, too serious, intense. Because the truth is, their laziness built your empire. Their doubt paid for your throne. And your silence, that was the sound of you loading every failure into the chamber. You pulled the trigger with results. This wasn't revenge. Revenge is petty, loud, temporary. This was poetry, written in precision. You didn't come back to clap. You came back unrecognizable, elevated, untouchable. You didn't scream, "Look at me now." You became the version they never believed you'd touch. And that silence, that was the real karma, echoing louder than any comeback line ever could. While they stewed in their hate, rotting in old stories, chewing on the same bitterness, you were morphing. You turned every insult into fuel, every betrayal into blueprint. They stayed stuck in reruns. You started directing new scenes, and by the time they looked up, you weren't even in the same genre. You didn't get even. You got excellent. They tried to bury you with words. You buried them in results, and that's what burns. The fact that you didn't need them broken to rise. You just needed them gone. They chose to hate in place. You chose to heal in motion. And that healing, that's what made you lethal. You didn't react. Let them keep rehearsing grudges. You're too busy living the life they said you couldn't have. They expected rage, drama, a collapse. What they got? Reinvention so sharp it left their version of you obsolete. You didn't prove them wrong with arguments. You proved them wrong by becoming everything they couldn't even imagine. This wasn't revenge. This was transformation. And the beauty of it? You didn't rise in spite of them. You rose because of them. Their doubt was the spark. Their shade, the soil. And now, you're the bloom they can't stand to watch grow. You didn't shout. You didn't even curse. You documented. You came armed with timestamps, screenshots, and surgical truth. And when you dropped it, it wasn't petty. It was precise. Every word cut clean. No fluff, no filler, just cold evidence and hotter silence. They weren't prepared for that kind of exposure, because deep down, they knew. They always knew. But you saying it out loud, that was the real trigger. You reminded them Publicly, relentlessly, you dragged their lies into the daylight, and suddenly they needed damage control. You didn't twist the truth, you just stripped it naked. And what's raw always hurts more, because truth ain't pretty. It doesn't care who it embarrasses. It doesn't care how long they rehearse the lie. It gaslit you, undermined you, made you question your own mind. So when you flipped the script, with evidence, with calm, with brutal logic, they crumbled, because ego can't survive exposure. You weren't trying to destroy them. You were just done protecting them from themselves. And when facts walk in, fiction dies fast. Stop softening the blow. Stop shrinking your truth for their comfort. You're not cruel. You're clear. And clarity in a world of cowards looks like cruelty. So what? Let it look like war. Because if the truth hurts, maybe they should stop building homes in lies. You didn't stab them. You held up the mirror. The cut, that was self-inflicted. They begged for attention. They got consequences. And now, your silence after the facts? That's the loudest part. You didn't just win the argument. You ended the illusion. You kept your mouth shut when they laughed, when they mocked, when they whispered like wolves behind your back. You heard it all, but said nothing. Not because you were weak, because you were watching, measuring every move, calculating every fake smile. You weren't quiet. You were gathering. And when you finally opened your mouth, the air changed. You didn't speak to be heard. You spoke to shift timelines. And when your words landed, they didn't echo. They detonated. The same ones who called you too quiet suddenly couldn't breathe in your presence. Your voice didn't just pierce, it haunted. Because your silence wasn't absence, it was pressure. Years of pressure. And they felt the explosion when it cracked. There's something terrifying about the one who stays silent, because they aren't distracted. They're focused. And when that kind of mind finally decides to speak, every word is a weapon. You weren't looking for a mic. You became one, amplifying every regret they ever tried to bury. You didn't remind them of what you went through. You made them feel it. That's the power of silence. It stacks. It stores. And when released, it breaks bones without raising a hand. You didn't just speak. You exposed their lies, their games, their cowardice, and they froze. Because deep down, they always feared what the quiet one might say if they ever snapped. Let them talk now, let them scramble. You're not here to debate. You're here to deliver truths wrapped in thunder. And the beauty of it? You never needed a voice to make noise. You just needed the right moment to end the silence. They were fine when you broke yourself to keep the peace, when you dimmed your fire to fit inside their shadow, when you swallowed truth like poison just to make them comfortable. But the second you said no, the second you put up a wall instead of bleeding for their comfort, they labeled you toxic. That wasn't truth, that was terror. Because suddenly, they couldn't use you. You stopped playing therapist. You stopped bending. You stopped apologizing for your own spine. And they panicked. Because manipulators don't hate you. They hate your boundaries. They hate that the puppet finally cut the strings and started dancing to their own chaos. They didn't lose someone soft. They lost someone useful. That's the difference. That's the crime. Now you're the villain in their story. The twisted one, the cold one, the dangerous one. But deep down, they know. You weren't the problem. You were the pattern interrupt. You shattered the fantasy they built on your silence. And the noise you made, that was healing in reverse. Explosive, unapologetic, real. They called it selfishness. You called it survival. They called it betrayal. You called it awakening. The names they throw are nothing but panic in disguise. Last-ditch spells cast by people who can't control you anymore. And when control dies, so does the lie. You weren't toxic. You were the antidote, the cure to the manipulation, the end of the cycle. And now, every time they speak your name, they're not talking about who you are. They're talking about the power they lost. They thought this was a game, a back and forth, a simple dance of words. So they came with their moves, predictable, rehearsed, weak. They thought you'd stumble. They thought you'd play along. But you didn't come to play checkers. You brought a blowtorch. You didn't flicker. You exploded. You didn't just hit back. You burned the whole damn board. They poked at the calm and stirred a hurricane they never saw coming. While they moved like pawns, you were already rewriting the rules. Every step you took wasn't a reaction, it was a calculated strike. Unseen, unheard, unstoppable. You didn't respond to their noise, you erased it. Real power isn't loud, it's inevitable. A silent force that shatters foundations before anyone realized the ground moved. Forget their expectations, forget their scripts. You're not here to dance on their stage. You're here to burn it down and build a fortress from the ashes. They'll look for patterns, strategies, reasons, but you don't give them that luxury. You shift, adapt, dismantle. Because unpredictability is the deadliest weapon. When the dust settles, they won't remember the moves you made. They'll remember what you destroyed. The chaos you unleashed will be their new reality. And that's the art of true domination. Not reacting to their chaos, but redesigning the battlefield so you're the only one standing. They wanted a fight, you gave them a collapse. And that's power. Raw, relentless, ruthless. You don't shout.
Just getting off.
Just getting off. Don't forget the mark.
Your energy fills the room like a storm waiting to break.
Yeah.
Love you, all right?
Love you more, baby.
Heavy, inevitable. People feel you before they even see. Your presence is a message louder than any scream. It says, I'm here. I'm real. You can't rewrite. No need to argue. No need to explain. You exist as the proof they refuse to believe. They try to bend you with words, to twist your reality with doubt. But the mind only respects what it can't manipulate. Your calm, it unsettles them. Your confidence, it shatters their fragile illusions. You aren't part of their circus anymore. You're the silent force pulling the strings behind the scenes. They don't hate you. They fear you. Because control is an illusion you've already shattered. This isn't about being loud or flashy. It's about becoming unignorable. About training your silence until it feels like an insult to anyone who tries to fill your space with noise. Every breath you take is a challenge. Every glance a warning. You don't need permission to be seen. You demand it. without saying a word. So stop shouting. Stop trying to prove. Instead, build a presence so sharp it cuts through distractions and doubts like a blade. Become the shadow in the room they can't escape. Because the loudest message you can send is your silence screaming, I am the truth you can't deny.